Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Living Tattoo Traditions American Irezumi and Beyond panel discussion. This is the first in a suite of programs that we have planned throughout the run of the exhibition. Please check the website or the poster in the gallery for information about each of those. We are planning programs on the first Thursday of each month to align with the Tenderloin Art Walk. So join us here and then head up to the Tenderloin to see some other great artwork. I'm Allison Wyckoff, the Director of Exhibitions for the San Francisco Public Library System. And I worked alongside the inimitable Taki and Molly Kitamura as co-curator of the exhibition. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today, and especially our esteemed panelists. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize that the San Francisco Public Library occupies the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We recognize that the Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all things and have remained in harmony with nature for millennia. I'd like to uplift the work of the Sogo-Rete Land Trust. It's an organization that's led by Indigenous women who are working to restore sacred relationships between Indigenous people and their ancestral land, honoring matrilineal societies, and in opposition of patriarchal violence and dynamics. They're based in the East Bay. They're a really cool organization. You should check out their website. To introduce today's program, we're fortunate to have the American Irezumi photographer and videographer, also catalog designer, John Agcaoili. John's exceptional talent creates the heart of the show, and his gift of making people feel comfortable in front of the camera is seen in the photographs and the video and in the catalog of the exhibition. And that's no small feat if you've ever worked with people taking their photographs. You can really feel just how confident they are in John and how relaxed he made everyone feel. The high standard of excellence John brought to the show will be near impossible to match in the future. He really set the bar high. So please help me welcome John Agcaoili.
Thanks. Oh, it's kind of bright up here. Yeah. First, I just want to thank everybody for being here and being present during this groundbreaking show that we have here at the library. I just want to thank this group up here for their contributions, not only to tattooing, but for their communities. They've put in countless hours of work, blood, sweat, tears, and perseverance. To my very far left, we have Seem Dayoub, John Henry Gloyne, Taki Kitamura, Molly Kitamura, Leo Zulueta. Let's give them a big round of applause, please.
All right. Is this working? Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, well, thank you for being here. It's really an honor to share this stage with you. And even though I've only met Leo, John Henry, and Seem recently, I feel like I know you all very well, reading your interviews, looking at your photographs, studying your work. And we are all very lucky to be in everyone's presence here today. So together, you have a combined 100 years of tattooing, which is really phenomenal. We figured this out this afternoon. I think that's pretty awesome. You're all incredibly talented tattoo artists and are really pushing the boundaries of what it means to be a tattooer, elevating the art form, and really taking tattooing to different realms. And we see this throughout the exhibition, which opened last night. I see many of you who were here yesterday. And John mentioned community, and the exhibition, last night's opening was such a strong show of community that each of you have brought to the exhibition. And so just thank you for that. We need that now more than ever, especially in these incredibly trying times. So the exhibition is an exemplar of community co-curation and the transformative power of art and storytelling. And you see really that in the photos and material objects in the exhibition, and it comes through loud and clear when you listen to the interviews. Tattooing is a high art form that's really continually informed by and evolving through culture, identity, and place, all of which we'll be exploring today in this conversation. So without further talk from me, I just want to start with the American Irezumi origin story. So the concept of American Irezumi embodies your life's work, Taki, and you built the exhibition thesis around that idea. What is American Irezumi, and how did you develop the exhibition, including selecting the artists?
Thanks, Allison. And so before I answer that, I'd like to also backtrack. Again, thanks everyone for coming, and I'm sure last night that was a really amazing opening. Thank you, Allison, for spearheading this. And I also want to recognize, though, it's not just like we have like Megan, Christine, Ben. There's a whole team from the library that, like, you know, an exhibition like this takes there's so many moving parts, and so many people make it happen. And even on John's side, John is an amazing photographer that I've worked with for decades, but he also had like Miles, Alan, EJ, his whole team working. And I know some people were working very hard to get those videos done in time. And so for us, and even working with Allison, that comes from like over 10 years of us collaborating with her at the Asian Art Museum and doing events there. So she's long been a proponent of tattooing, of storytelling, of culture. So, you know, we really do appreciate that. And coming to the whole American Irezumi, originally this exhibition was going to be called American Irezumi, and that was a name, a term that I came up with to kind of describe what essentially I've been doing for almost 30 years. I'm a Japanese American, and I think being one, you kind of struggle with these issues of identity, like maybe in Japan, you're not Japanese enough, maybe in America, you're not American enough. And, you know, so that kind of led to, it kind of coalesced with my interest in tattoos. Like I was really like interested in tattoos. Like I was just drawn to them, which I think a lot of people can relate to. Like you can't really explain why you like them, but you just do. And it just was like my thing. And then through the course of this, I realized that, you know, like I was like learning a lot about Japanese culture and sharing that with people, and also just learning a lot about myself. And, you know, maybe, again, I've been doing this for almost 30 years. So at some point, you know, I went to the point of having like a master in Japan, a title. Like, you know, I had 2 artists at the studio that we brought over from Japan, got them like green cards. And it's like, at a certain point though, I kind of felt like, you know, no matter what I did, I still felt like a little bit of sense that like, maybe it wasn't Japanese enough. And I think like this is something that a lot of immigrant people go through. And it's like where like, you know, it's like maybe you feel like it's not authentic enough. And I think at a certain point I realized like, all this time I tried to be this traditional Japanese tattoo artist, and that would never fully happen because I'm not a traditional Japanese person, and I'm a Japanese American. And furthermore, what's more important is that there's nothing wrong with that, and it's kind of like an acceptance of what I do. And it was a journey that I took that told me a lot about myself. And also what I realized is a lot of my clients were taking that same journey, and I was sharing with them and learning from them. And a lot of them, be they Japanese American or not, like everyone had something that we were kind of exchanging here and representing through the tattoos. So, you know, that was kind of the how can I say it, like the rough thesis of this exhibition, you know. And I think one of the great things about when you collaborate with people, talking with my wife and talking with Allison, was that, and also like the realization that like this resonates with other people. Like I have friends of like Mexican American descent who don't speak Spanish and they get shit for that, or like, oh, I'm not supposed to say that. Okay. Anyhow, like, but I think we've all been like seen like where there's like this human experience where like, you know, there's like such a need to like be a certain something with your identity. And I think that, you know, like, and culture is just not like that. Like we don't exist in a vacuum. Like there's no one way that everyone does anything. So, you know, Allison really pushed us to like kind of like look further. And that's kind of where the whole living tattoo traditions, American Irezumi and Beyond came through. And so I think from there, you know, in almost 30 years of tattooing, I've been very lucky to like have like met and worked with a lot of really amazing people. I mean, do you want me to talk about the people up here, or kind of just sort of like, well, like, like Seem is definitely like, very like vocally known for doing really great work in New York. And like also like I identified, I think, as somebody that would like have something really cool to say and contribute well to this show. Henry Gloyne, when we started talking about this, he's like, well, if you want to come out to Cherokee and like document, like we're there. If you're gonna host us, we're there. And like he really brings like a really cool, like, and not just tattooing, but he's so immersed in cultural arts. And my wife Molly and I, we have very long discussions about these sorts of things, these issues of identity, and like where we all fit into that. And I saved Leo for last because Leo is in so many ways like a dear friend, but also a mentor, also a living legend of tattooing. Like right there with Ed Hardy. It's like Molly and I also, Ed and Francesca passed us their publishing company, Hardy Marks Publications, and Leo was there in the 70s helping them, and Leo is the one who basically started the modern tribal movement. Leo's the one there in the punk scene. So for us, like, Leo's definitely like not just a friend, but like this role model for us and an inspiration. So, and then just looking around, I see Jimmy Shai there. Like Jimmy Shai is, a Taiwanese tattooer, and he has this whole thing about bringing the pinky style back, and it's like he has this thing to say, for his people and for his culture, and like so, obviously a show like this, there's a limit to how much you can put in, and like if I was to criticize it, of course, we wish we could represent even more cultures, even more people, but this is a starting point, and I'm hoping other people will take this as inspiration of like, how are you serving your culture, your community? How are you representing your art? And I think like, like this is just kind of like a cool broad section of, and I think we have a nice group, and I'm like really feeling like I've been talking too long. So I believe the moderator should move this to somebody else.
Hey, I'd like to tell a story now because my career totally comes under the title of American Irezumi. I'm American Filipino. I was born in Bethesda, Maryland. My dad was in the Navy, U.S. Navy. He joined at the end of World War II. And I've struggled with my identity from time to time. And the whole thrust of my tattoo career has been to, number one, bring an awareness for ancient tattooing around the world over the ages, but also, well, let me just tell a story that relates to all this entirely. Oh, I'm sorry. So in 1999, I was invited to a tattoo convention in Western Samoa that was put on by Zulueta Paulo from New Zealand. He's actually a Samoan from Western Samoa, but he had moved to New Zealand for 25 years. He had lived there for a long, long time. And Paulo was trying to assemble a group of artists to learn the hand tapping from him to, quote unquote, take it back to its respective countries. He had a Hawaiian student. He had a Maori student. He had a French student, a French guy that lived in Canary Islands, but Paulo's idea was that Mo'o would take the tapping to back to Tahiti, to French Polynesia. And he had hoped that I would learn the tapping to take back to the Philippines. I myself have never been to the Philippines. I was not raised with the culture. I was not raised with the language. I was raised a little bit with the food. Paulo also asked us to bring a flag from our country. I would have brought an American flag because I am super proud of that. And he had since I didn't bring a flag, he had a young Samoan man walking in the opening parade with a cardboard sign that said the Philippines. Yeah, this is for real. And so, after the opening ceremonies, I took Paulo aside and said that I could not accept that privilege and honor because I explained all that. That number one, I was never been to the Philippines, and he understood that I had no right to that position, and I was super glad of that. But the story really means what I fully am, and that's I'm an American. Most of my clients, it's 90. During my 44 years of tattooing, I would have to say about 97, 98% of those customers were American. So I hope you understand that, even though I've been promoting this tribal thing, I haven't been promoting it for one specific group. I've been trying to promote it for all of humankind, not just for Filipinos or Hawaiians or whatever, That to me is the magic, that we can all stay together in this global thread, That's the magic of tattooing.
That- So I'm going to jump around because you were talking about, essentially like cultural appropriation, and, tattoos are conduits of cultural heritage. They connect people to cultures that may not be their own. Understanding that culture is not a monolith, where and how does cultural appropriation enter into the conversation about tattooing? And maybe Seem, John Henry, or Molly, maybe one of you can answer this question.
I was talking with my friends about this morning, and yeah, I'm Arab American, but similar to Leo, like I've never been to Syria, even though that's where my mom's family is from, and I feel like as I guess an Arab American, I've kind of I tattoo a lot of other Arab Americans in diaspora, and all of us are kind of searching for this connection to culture, connection to heritage. Especially because this American project, it doesn't provide us with a culture. It actually takes it away from us, where we forget our roots and forget where we come from. And I resonate so much with what everyone has said about this show specifically, and reading everyone's plaques and about themselves. There's these common threads where we're all kind of searching for that, and we've all found it in some ways, or at least we're like asking the same questions. Trying to create an experience that's authentic to our own, and not trying to replicate one that we maybe don't have access to. I guess I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great. John Henry, do you have thoughts about?
I'm from a small Indian reservation in the mountains of North Carolina, and being indigenous, Native American, cultural appropriation is obviously something I see all the time. And when people ask my opinion on it, something people have to understand is like, my opinion as an indigenous person isn't every indigenous person's opinion. So I can speak for myself and maybe my community, and that's it. But like, to think that all Native indigenous people in the Americas agree is just not the case. So I may feel some way about cultural appropriation, but someone else in my tribe might feel the complete opposite from it. So it's a tough thing to tackle. So it's hard to have like a over encompassing umbrella opinion that everyone agrees on, because we don't, and that's just the truth. So, and I also don't like telling people what to think. So, like, images don't belong to me, symbols don't belong to me. So if someone's going to do something with it, that's I'm not the police. So it's a gray area. That's my answer.
Molly?
Being Korean American, adopted from Korea, and growing up in a predominantly white city, white neighborhood, white family, cultural appropriation really, I didn't really think about it because I wasn't even in my culture, So everything I was learning and doing growing up, I was probably appropriating. But through tattooing mostly Asian women and in a place where there are a lot of Asian American people, I've really learned to appreciate everyone's individual opinions on that, and I think everyone has a valid point.
If I could just add something, it's about respect, and I feel like I keep hearing that with what everyone is saying. It's like everyone could have different opinions on it, but you can tell where someone's coming from, and if they're approaching it with like respect to the culture, their culture, your culture, with tattooing, it's just very evident. You don't really have to have everything else figured out.
I think respect is everything, and intention.
Yeah, I think for me, like I've often said to people, like I don't care who does Japanese tattoos, I don't care who gets Japanese tattoos, but I hope they do it respectfully. And I think the problem with the cultural appropriation topic for me is that like I feel like a lot of times I get approached with it like it's almost like somebody wants like me to write them a hall pass. Like, oh, can you say that it's cool for me to do this? And it's like there's no community that agrees 100%. Like you'll see people just arguing back and forth about who should do this, who should do that.
I get complete strangers that will like DM me on Instagram with like a Native American old tattoo design, being like, "Hey man, you think it's cool if I paint this?" And I'm like,
That's how we met. I was like, check out this sweet Thunderbird, you know.
but yeah, I mean, I tell them the same thing. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. If you want to do it. But
I think maybe
Well,
the people.
I'd like to add that yesterday I had a long look at John's work. I just met John yesterday, and after I had that look, I had to tell him that the reason I really like his work a lot because it's contemporary. And that to me is the key, to keep it in the present. All this cultural appropriation stuff, I mean, come on, all us humans, we've been going back thousands, 10,000s of years, in different groups. And why I like John's work so much, of course, he's totally 100% native from North Carolina, but his work contemporary. It has a lot of ancient symbols in it, but still, he keeps it contemporary. And that, to me, is what I feel is what that means, what the term that Taki coined, American Irezumi. That's exactly what that is. It's to keep it contemporary. And so there's not that whole argument of, oh, is this cultural, stealing from different cultures. That's not what we're trying to keep it positive here, people. We're not trying to like argue with everybody about everything. That's not the key.
and I have witnesses that Leo said something real cool about me.
It's documented. So I think each of you has talked about respect, and one of the themes in the show is learning, right? And learning from your clients, learning, the tattoo artists imparting knowledge to their clients, and that being, this kind of circular relationship. So there's also a symbiotic circular relationship between culture, identity, and place and tattooing, which is echoed, again, throughout the exhibition. And at the same time, culturally specific tattoos are constantly evolving. How do your identities inform your tattooing practices? And in what ways do your background and the background of the person you're tattooing affect the experience? Seem. This question came from you, so I'm gonna...
Yeah, for sure. When we were talking about it, we were like, for writing the questions for this panel, we were talking about how our identities inform our work. And I think it's an important thing to never forget that it's not just us doing the tattoo. Like it's such a unique art form where it's like the person who's receiving the tattoo, it's a collaboration. It's not something we can do in isolation ever. Like I can paint if I want that experience, So like for me as like an Arab American tattooer, like whoever I'm tattooing, that has a huge, like tremendous influence on what we're making together. And I'm like looking at some of my friends who I've tattooed, and like these tattoos wouldn't exist if it wasn't for what you're bringing to the table as well, with your own culture, your own lineage. Like we've been able to include like tattoos from like Palestinian embroidery from like some of my clients' families, like things that have been passed down for generations. And it's such an honor to work with that imagery. It's not something that like I'll ever take lightly or take for granted. Um, yeah, yeah.
John Henry.
I feel like I have like a very unique situation with tattooing. About 3 to 5 years ago, I moved back to the reservation where I'm from, and in those years, it's like at this point, 90% of my clientele is just from the reservation where I live, and they live 4 miles from me and just come to my house and get tattooed. And I'm tattooing families, I'm tattooing parents, I'm tattooing their kids, people I went to high school with now, like their kids are old enough to get tattooed, and I'm starting to give them their first tattoos, and it's just extremely special. And all of them want like kind of Cherokee, southeastern centric motifs, and kind of like Leo was saying, like I just want to have fun with them, and kind of put a new breath of fresh air in those designs. Not that I think they need it, but I'm just trying to have fun with what I'm doing, and uh, and culture as a monolith. Like to me, like if your culture is strong, it is fluid, and it can change, and it can evolve, and it has nothing to do with your designs being boring. You're just respecting them and adding to it, because humans evolve. So Native Americans kind of get put in this time capsule, and especially the whole traditional. Are you a traditional? Are your tattoos traditional? It's like, what does that fucking even mean? You know, it's like, this is just ridiculous. So, because again, like not only are like tribe to tribe, we're not going to agree, but people in a different community are not going to agree with me on my own reservation. So, like pleasing everyone is just not going to happen. Just if your aim is true, then everything will work out fine.
I totally agree. I was going to add on that note too, like the 5 Samoan American artists in the exhibition, that style that they're doing, the contemporary Polynesian, that's within our lifetime. You know, and that's not traditional per se. It's with machine. It's on parts of the bodies that Samoans didn't traditionally tattoo, but I think it's 100% representing them, and it's like a really, and a lot of them actually, if you read the catalog, which you should buy because it's back there, but their interviews, they'll talk about Leo influenced them, because that flow that they're doing wasn't on the arms in traditional Samoan tattooing. If you research into that, you'll see that that actually kind of went through like kind of what Leo did with the modern tribal movement, was kind of sparked that. And then, you know, you get a whole generation of people that want tattoos showing on their arms, or their, and even like the chest panel, that comes a lot from like the Japanese type of stuff. And then as far as like identities, like if you look at like the group photos that we did out there, like, you know, I'm proud that like, you know, I feel like every race, every culture has come to me to get like Japanese style work. And my job as a proper Japanese tattooer is to do a good job, is to know what I'm doing to do it correctly. Their job is to like really like to get the tattoo, like to be that partner, like to you know, go through that pain. Like I have actually one of my first long sleeve bodysuits is here. So Tak, thank you for everything and all your friendship over the years. And he'll tell you it's not easy to get, you know, tattoos like that finished. So I'm not, you know, like maybe some of my Japanese American clients, they're on that same trip as me of like trying to know more about like, you know, the land we came from at one point. But for me, like I also see a lot of my clients, they have different reasons. Like, you know, I have a lot of clients that like, they like the warrior ethos, the samurai culture, things like that. They like, you know, maybe they read something, maybe they took a trip to Japan, but for whatever reason. And I think if they're going to sit there and spend like 100 hours with me of, you know, a lot of pain and in some really hard spots, like they've earned that, you know. I can't speak for anyone else. I can only speak for myself, you know, and but that's how I feel about it.
Well, I haven't been tattooing for very long, so but what I can say is that for my work in my life, my clients influence me and the guys that I work with influence me.
So how does your identity inform your tattooing, and in what ways do the backgrounds of your clients inform your practice?
Well, let me just start by saying in the mid 90s, I opened my shop in LA in 1992. And by the mid 90s, I have to say, pop culture influenced tattooing such that I'm not exaggerating. I probably had 30, 40, 50 requests to do the Rock's tattoo. I'm serious. And I would constantly, say no to it and say, look, dude, I am not copying his tattoo. I can give you a version of something like that, but I am not copying that. And the whole point of that story is pop culture really had its way of influencing the tattoo arena world at that time. Because I'm not kidding, it got to the point where, they were bringing me all these charts and pictures of his tattoo. I have to have it exactly like this. I'm like, you're not Samoan, man. Like you can't have it exactly like that. That's his tattoo, and I'm not going to copy it. But the whole point of the story is that we have to make, that has been the whole thrust of my career. We have to make this stuff our own. We can't be stealing from an olden culture, even if you have that descent. You're not from there anymore. We're from here now. And that's, like I said earlier, that term that Taki coined, American Irezumi, that's exactly what we all represent here up on this panel. We're trying to make it for all of us, every human out there, not just one specific group.
That's great. Well, so I want each of you to tell me how your tattoo practices show up in the exhibition. And yeah, well, I think you've been answering, like, what does cultural tattooing mean to each of you? But so how does your practice show up in the exhibition?
I can start again.
Down the line.
I mean, I feel like this exhibition is so unique in that it really honors the people who have the tattoos, and including people's voices who have been tattooed by all of us. But I think being a part of this exhibition is like incredibly inspiring. Like Leo, like I can't even put into words how much just knowing you and your work has had an impact on my career, and just like seeing like Taki, like seeing all of this huge body of work is like so inspiring, and just really centering in terms of like where I want my work to go, because I'm like a very young artist. I've been tattooing like a little less than 10 years, but yeah, it's still just incredibly humbling, incredibly inspiring.
What's kind of the question again?
How is your practice of tattooing shown in the exhibition?
Oh,
Got-
well, it relates directly back to what I was just talking about I primarily just tattoo the people in my community and or my reservation, and even the photographs of the art in the exhibit, it's literally, one of them's my brother, one of my best friends' little brother. There's a mother-daughter, and then just another real good client that lives 3 miles from me, and that's just kind of my day-to-day work, But it's really well represented. I am like tattooing like family, basically, just all the time. It feels very special. Fortunate, so it's well represented.
I think you're being modest. Do you want to talk about the carving? You'll notice that there's 4 Cherokee booger masks that John carved, and you want to.
Sorry, I skipped over that. Growing up on the reservation, there's the high school on the reservation it's just it's super cool. Like my high school, you have cultural classes, you have Cherokee language classes, you have Cherokee basket classes, you have Cherokee pottery classes, and Cherokee wood carving. And I focused on the Cherokee wood carving, and I started my sophomore year in high school. And even tattooing has a lineage just like, or excuse me, wood carving has a lineage just like tattooing. So the person that taught me, his name was Bud Smith, but he learned from like just a legend of Cherokee wood carving, and her name was Amanda Crow. And again, that lineage is where I learned. And so I was wood carving long before I even dreamed of tattooing. And so uh, I traveled a lot after high school, so I I couldn't really travel with woodworking stuff. It's just a lot of stuff. So, anyways, when I moved back home, I finally got to focus on like having my wood shop and just being able to carve. And so I was super fortunate. Taki asked me to make a couple masks for this, and but they are Cherokee booger masks, and I don't know if they want me to get into that.
Yes, yeah. Tell
Okay.
us what booger masks are.
Um, I'll make a long story short. Basically, like again, this goes back to like all tribes did not get along, and Cherokees were most tribes. They're like isolationists. They don't want anyone coming inside their bubble. So when all these foreigners, and you got to remember too, another tribe would be a foreigner. So everyone's a foreigner, and they would do the well. The booger name came after European contact. We call them shkilis, which is basically a witch or a ghost or a bad omen. But we would have this dance to scare off these people and these spirits and all this energy. And you would dress like the thing you were trying to scare off. So if you were trying to scare off the Europeans, like you would carve a mask that looks like what you think a European is. But then also, it's a vulgar dance because they thought the Europeans were vulgar. So it would be like very provocative. So like each dancer has to have their own name, and there'd be like absurd names like Stinky Anus or something. Like it was like very vulgar. And then the whole dance is about trying to steal women. Um, so but it was a way of us trying to um, push out everything that was destroying our culture. So that's what those masks are from.
They're beautiful, so please make a point of going into the exhibition and really studying them because the texture of the wood is gorgeous. The way that you've used the the different idiosyncrasies in the wood is really cool. So
And the wood is like harvested just from my backyard. Like I live out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not from California. I'm a country boy, so I enjoy like cutting down trees and stuff.
Um, so one thing I think like about this exhibition, if you notice, it's largely as much a portrait exhibition as it is, a tattoo exhibition. And there's a couple things that kind of like are important to note. Like one is I feel like John Agcaoili is an amazing photographer of all mediums, but I feel his strong point is portraiture, and I feel like he really captures like people's personalities, and I think he did that amazingly. And also in a lot of our conversations with Allison and Molly, and when we're talking about this, we really wanted to put the client like in an equal way as the tattoo artist because it is a collaboration. And if you look at it, we're really trying to show both these personas, and like we don't consider them canvases. They're like oftentimes our friends. They're people that allow us to do this, allow us to share this experience. So I think, and that for me is really like when I kept like I get really emotional when I look at those group shots because like one, it's like a lot of memories over 3 decades, but two, it's like all these people like did it, like they finished, like I mean, there are a few that are in progress, but you get my point there. And I think it's like it's not easy to get big tattoos. It hurts, it costs money, it takes a lot of time, and like so I think from our perspective, that's the biggest thing for me is that like that sort of dedication, that perseverance, and like and I'm also a client myself. Like I probably have like at least 1.5 bodysuits if you count the layers, and it's like like it hurts. Like, and I don't there was so many times I didn't want to do it. So I you know, I think that's like something that I know there's a lot of tattooers here, so I think we all know that. It's like you really like appreciate your clients, and it's more than just, you know, that. It's a collaboration.
It's definitely a collaboration, and it's been fulfilling for me because it really tattooing all these Asian women. It really teaches me and informs me on Asian American culture, and it was a way. It was a way for us to honor all those people and honor the clients. And yeah, I do agree with Taki. It's a portrait show.
Leo, tell us about your objects in the exhibition, because you've got a range of things, one of which is from our collection.
Yeah, I made a skateboard for the show. Earlier in the year, I made a very similar skateboard for an auction for a skate park benefit in Ann Arbor, and that one that I submitted to that show, I was calling it like a Borneo shield. The design is in negative, really, and really layered up. And this is the second of that series. I'm actually currently working on a third one right now at home, and yeah, I'm really having fun with that. I started skating probably in 1962 or 1963 at the age of 11 in Hawaii. That was a steel wheel roller skate that was sawed in half and nailed to the bottom of a board. And shortly thereafter, I got some trucks with clay wheels on it, and we moved to San Diego in '65, and you know, I was on clay wheels at that point. But yeah, I've been skating a long time, and in adult life, I had a 48-inch longboard, but I can't do that anymore. I can't fall down. But skating has been in my life for a long time. The thrust of my career in the beginning was an awareness of Borneo tattooing. I feel is some of the most beautiful tattooing that ever survived on the planet, and it's a pay of respect. The board is a pay of respect to that culture and art.
There's also a flyer that you designed that's part of the San Francisco Punk Rock Archive that's housed here at the library. Can you tell us about that and your relationship to the punk scene?
Sure,
in San
I lived
Francisco?
here in the '70s, like I said earlier, and I had a gay friend that lived in North Beach, and he said, "Hey, let's go to this punk rock club," you know. So we went, and then he said, "Hey, man, let's start designing." He was an artist as well, and he said, "Let's make punk rock flyers for the bands and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let's do that," you know. And so I started doing that, and I was part of a group of people that used to frequent Mabuhay Gardens in North Beach. That was the primary punk rock location in the beginning, and then it started, you know, venues started opening up around the city. We used to have gigs at the Deaf Club, San Francisco Deaf Club, which was really cool because the deaf kids would be standing right next to the speaker so they could feel it. It was so awesome. Yeah, and yeah, so I used to make punk rock posters, and that actually is how I got to be, you know, involved with Tattoo Time, laying out the first couple of Tattoo Time issues, because Ed knew that I had that skill. He had asked me before that to make a sign for the hallway of his private studio on Van Ness, which I did, just a small little black and white sign. So he knew that I had those skills because of I was making the flyers, and that's actually the reason why he had me lay out the first couple of Tattoo Time magazines.
So everyone on this panel is into punk rock. Tattooing and punk are subcultures that inform each other, just like skateboarding. It's part of that. How does punk inform your interest in tattooing, and which came first for you, punk rock or tattooing? We'll just go down the line, Seem.
I got it. Yeah, it's so cool to hear that with Leo, because yeah, I definitely got into punk first, and at like a really young age. in like middle school. Yeah, going into middle school. And I was drawing flyers, and like I remember seeing Leo's flyers. Like when you were showing me all of the ones that you made, I was like, this is blowing my mind. Just like this connection that I didn't know that history until you told me, like, or just your personal history, just seeing the parallels. Like I was drawing show flyers for punk shows because I didn't have money to get into the shows, and if I drew the flyer, I could get into the show. And my first tattoo, I traded I think I traded like a coffee, a croissant, and then I told my friend who was like learning how to tattoo at the time that um I was drawing a lot, and I made like a flyer or a shirt. I did both for their band, but I don't remember which came first. But that's how I got my first tattoo, because I also didn't have money for tattoos, and just like, yeah, trading things like that. Um, and that's how I started, like, yeah, drawing all the time. Was drawing. Um, I made like punk zines, like fanzines, and I'm still kind of trying to continue that practice with like tattoo fanzines. And um, yeah, it's kind of crazy to be like turning 30 and doing the same thing. And I'll probably be doing the same thing for like 30 more years, inshallah. But yeah, it's yeah, they're very intertwined.
I love that. Yes, bring back the barter system. John Henry.
It feels more awkward when you're 42 and still doing the same thing. Yeah, I mean, punk rock came first, then shortly after skateboarding, and yeah, I probably wouldn't be on the stage if it wasn't for both of them. You know, I really wouldn't. It's just how much I kind of gave myself to that music and how much it informed the things that I did, and then kind of relating it to everything that we're talking about in the show. I grew up on an Indian reservation, around Indians, around my culture, and very young age, you like 11, like I had a very cool older sister, and so I got into like punk rock music really early, and you know, a style of music that's like based on like kind of embracing your individuality, but you're from a Indian reservation that embraces community, can be very confusing. So like my teenage years, I was kind of just like, I don't want nothing to do with any like Native American imagery, period. Like, because that's what like your high school art teacher wants you to paint, like an Indian on a horse or a sunset or an eagle or something. And it's just like, I don't want to do any of that. I want to paint a rat fink. And that's what I did for a long time. And, it wasn't really until I had kids that I was like, I do want them to grow up around rat fink, but I also want them to grow up around our culture. And they need dad to be doing the culture if they're going to see it. So I just got way deeper into the imagery then. And that's when I started playing with that a lot more. And it was a struggle in the beginning to like bring your I your own identity into a community, and not make it feel selfish. Um, because one big tenet in our tribe is called Gadugi, and that basically translates to giving yourself to your community selflessly. For you're not expecting something back in return, not a prize, not money, not a pat on the back. You just give. And I think about that every time I wake up and I'm making something. It's just like, I can make these images cooler, or not cooler, but just something fresh that represents us. It's not just me, it's us. And so that is that individuality, but I'm like hoping it can serve the community, because again, if your aim is true, then it should work out.
I think one of the sort of paradoxes about Japanese tattooing is that like literally, if you go to any country in the world, you'll find people that love Japanese tattoos. You'll find people doing Japanese tattoos, like with titles and all that. But if you go to Japan, like on a large scale, like tattooing is like large looked down upon. It's getting better as time goes on. I think younger people are loosening up about it. But so you can imagine, like, I had like immigrant parents that, like my father was a professor. So, when they moved here, like the last thing they wanted would be their kid to get tattooed or do tattoos and things like that. So for me, like getting into like skateboard culture and then punk culture was about like rebellion and being like outsider. I mean, I know those aren't now, but they were at one point. And I feel like same thing with tattooing. It's kind of like that rebellious notion. But like on a funny note about that, Freddie, I remember seeing that picture of you and Bill Salmon when you did those Santa Cruz dots in that Thrasher issue, and I was just kind of, that's so cool. Like I want to be a tattooer one day. So ironically, like my focus would become like more like Japanese and like cultural art, but the initial thing was like I just thought tattooing was cool, right? But I feel like what you're saying too, it's like it's funny because like punk and like that kind of stuff was so like rebellious, but then you get into these things, and I feel like I chose one of the most structured styles of tattooing there with the most rules and regulations, and you have to do this and that, and like, but I loved it because then I think it's like because I chose it, and even then, like going to like when I first started getting tattooed in Japan, I got my back done in '98, and it was just kind of like, whoa, dude, like this is like all underground, and there's these like dudes with bodysuits, and that guy might be a yakuza, and it was just like so crazy to me. So there was like that sense of wonderment, and it still was an outsider thing back then. So I think like that kind of drew me to it, but now like I'm at a point where we're doing photo shoots at churches. Like, half my clients are police officers, like, like, but I think like for me, it's okay because I'm staying true to what I want to do. And that's do these tattoos. And like, that's how I'm expressing myself. So, I think whatever road got me there, and did you ask about music? Was you? Or was that?
Yeah, so yeah, which came first, punk rock
Oh,
or
okay,
tattooing?
yeah. I think an interest in tattooing was first, but I think punk was like what allowed me to take that step and piss my parents off. Yeah. So.
Punk definitely came first for me. I was really interested in the rebelliousness, the kind of fuck you attitude, um, the expression and taking agency over your own appearance really appealed to me as a teenager. I remember I shaved my head into a mohawk, and my parents were like mortified, but I was like super happy about that. And and it just kind of went through there. I mean, I hung out at like these all ages club nights where all the punks would gather, or like hang out outside of McDonald's, and like all the punks would gather, and like I just remember seeing all these tattoos and thinking that they were just so cool. So just evolved from there.
So there's just a like consistent tension between like I don't know if it's even staying true to tradition, maybe that's not even a word we want to use, and forging new paths, right? Just always being kind of in flux and evolving, tattooing or music or skateboarding. You talked about metal wheels and clay wheels. So before we pause for Q&A. What music do you listen to when you're tattooing? What are you listening to right now? And what excites you about tattooing right now? Like,
So many questions.
In that order, answer and then
Okay. I like what music I listen to when I'm tattooing. I'm like also in like a hardcore band, and sometimes I'll tattoo people who know me from that world, and they'll come in and I'm listening to like Nina Simone or like the most chill, like the most vibed out music, and they're just like, "What? I thought you only listened to like hardcore," but I would go crazy. Yeah, I listen to a lot of things. I feel like it progresses throughout the day, but yeah, constantly listening to music, so you have to change it up. And what excites me about tattooing right now?
yeah, new trends, new people.
Wow. I mean, so much. I feel like, yeah, there's like an influx of new people coming into tattooing all the time. And I think because I'm hitting this 10-year point, I remember when some of my friends were at that 10-year point, and you start thinking about like the influence that you're leaving on tattooing. where I feel like before I was just trying to soak it all in, just trying to like get tattooed by all the people I looked up to, just take in as much information like a sponge, just listen all the time. And I still want to continue to do that always, but yeah, I am, I guess, looking forward to seeing more younger tattooers looking up to their elders, continuing to carry on traditions, and then also break from them. I'm so excited when I get to talk to new people who are excited about tattooing. And I get to show them all these things and remember like when it was my first time, like seeing these things and hearing these stories. Yeah, I hope that people come and see this show and are inspired by kind of like this path, this like way. This isn't how everyone views tattooing at all. Like this is kind of like a culture that we are creating and like a model. And I think about that in terms of like the imagery that we do, the way that we approach each tattoo, the way that like we live our lives. Like I think about like, yeah, some of my like role models in tattooing and just seeing the way you live your life. It's like, it's, yeah, extremely humbling and inspiring.
Thank you.
Oh, as much as I love punk and just music in general across the board, I listen to podcasts. And when I'm tattooing, I don't know why, I've just got to where like I really can't stand to listen to music when I'm tattooing. And it's funny, I would rather like instead of listening to an album that's I love, I would rather listen to a podcast about someone talking about the album. So uh, uh, I don't really listen to music while I'm tattooing, but I constantly listen to music and consuming new music. I'm not gonna rattle off things that I like because I really can't think of anything right now. But
Which podcasts do you listen to?
they're all music podcasts.
Yeah.
So I'm still a real head, you know what I mean? But I can't even really. I don't know. I don't want to start naming stupid things. But what am I excited about tattooing? Um, a couple things. One is it's still the same thing that I've always been into since I was 11, which is just seeing cool drawings, cool paintings, cool images. I still love to see that just as much as I ever did. And I love when I can tell when I see a painting or something that I can tell like this dude's consumed with what he's making. And that's like the coolest because I am completely consumed with what I do. Um, and then the second thing that gets me excited about tattooing is not to get sentimental, but it's like just meeting completely awesome people from across the world, literally, and connecting with them on this level. And we're all weirdos in some way. We're all misfits in some kind of way, or at least if we get along, you have to be, because that's kind of come from that rebellious spirit. And it, I like almost want to cry seriously, like when I start to think about just the beautiful people that I've got to meet tattooing.
Thank you.
I own a shop with 8 other tattoo artists, so I listen to kind of whatever puts on the, whatever they put on. But if it was like a personal taste, I don't really have a set kind of music. I just don't want it too loud because I like talking with clients, and I think sometimes like even like you're encouraging them or, so I don't really have like a preference there. It's kind of funny because like I guess I've been like kind of like reflecting a lot on like tattooing and where I'm at with it. I'm almost at 30 years and like doing this exhibition and stuff. And I think like there's still a lot about it like that I appreciate about tattooing. Like I think but and maybe this is an ongoing theme with this show is like a sense of community. And then you also see how like our shop, we're very involved with our community. And I think it's like if you look at like Freddie Corbin over there with Temple Tattoo, like that's like an Oakland institution, and Freddie is serving his community. Like that's a place for people to go and get what they need. And I think, or another one is Adrian Attack Gallery in the Tenderloin. That's like been a like kind of like he saved the like that's like been the tattoo community meeting point. Like since we don't really have a convention here anymore, and like and tonight, like our friend Chad Keplinger, our dear friend, is having a show there, like a one-night show, so everyone should go to it. But stuff like that, like he painted 370 something sheets of flash in a year, and he's showing that there. So I feel like there's still a lot of really cool stuff happening in tattooing. There's a lot of fresh energy. I get like when you get on social media, there's a lot of people that complain about things, but I try to like stay away from that and just stay, do what I do. And I feel like tattooing has given me that. Like everything in my life has come from that. So.
I work with Taki, so I also listen to whatever anyone else is playing at the shop. Personally, I've been listening to a lot of like late 90s, early 2000s J-pop, which kind of brings me back to my time living in Japan. Good memories. And I guess I'm at the point in my short career where everything excites me about tattooing. And I'm fortunate enough to work with some of the best tattooers in the world. So everything they do, everything I see coming out of the shop, every drawing I get to look at, every Horitomo drawing I get to scan excites me. And I just feel so honored to even be in that, breathing that air.
I'm retired from the tattoo shop, but when I had the shop, I used to listen to a lot of world music. But funny story, when Diane and I first got together 25 years ago, I lived in LA and she lived in Michigan. And when we first got together, we would share a lot of music together. So at the shop, I'd be playing all kinds of romantic, like Isley Brothers and Marvin Gaye and stuff like that. People were the other artists were really bumming out. They're like, oh man, now he's playing that again. But yeah, I'm a amateur musician, and I play blues slide and. The last several years, and I listened to a lot of that. I listened to a lot of the old stuff, Sun House and Muddy Waters and contemporary stuff. R.L. Burnside is one of my huge favorites. But yeah, mostly I have a very vast interest in a lot of different music, but mostly blues, American roots music, global, stuff like that.
So I know you're not in the shop anymore, but what excites you about tattooing right now?
I have to say, what I spoke about earlier, I attended a really great show in Holland a few months ago that Hanky Panky and his wife Louise put on. Hank Schiffmacher, that is. And only Hank and Louise could have pulled this off, because Hank, as a lot of people in the tattoo business know, Hank's the pirate of Europe, the supreme pirate of Europe in the tattoo world. And he's the only one that could really pull this off. I mean, he had a few artists from Indonesia there. I got to meet Hens from Borneo, Indonesian Borneo. I've been really wanting to meet him. I've only known him on Instagram the last few years, but it was a real joy and honor to meet him at this show. But again, at this show, there was so many people, artists from all over the world. I met several tattoo artists from India, China, of course, Japan, Indonesia, Borneo. And we started, getting into these discussions about tattooing, of course, and the magic of tattooing. And the really thing that we resolved from all of it is what I spoke about earlier, and that is this ribbon of global consciousness that goes throughout all of us in the tattoo world that, again, are related in the respect, or we're not related through blood, but we're related to that common thread of that universal consciousness of the magic, the true magic in tattooing that really holds all of us together. I think you guys know what that is. So that's the stuff that excites me when I get with a group of people that really are in tune with that. And of course, everyone on this panel is in tune with that. That's what I feel about. That's the stuff that excites me when I mean, I can't even I'll be quite honest. I can't open up Instagram on uh, the tattoo world because it's so vast now. You know, when I first moved here to San Francisco in the mid '70s, there was 3 tattoo shops here in the city. There was Lyle Tuttle's, there was Picture Machine, and there was Henry Goldfield. I mean, Hardy was, of course, he had Realistic on Van Ness, but that was a private studio. That was not a real tattoo shop. Now, there's probably 3,000 tattoo shops in the Bay Area. In San Francisco, maybe. I don't know. But it's so vast. But in that vastness, there certainly is still that magic that a lot of us feel that we can, touch into, tap into. That's that whole thing I keep saying, it's about respecting that what came before us, but making it ours for today and for the future, because everything has to grow. It just can't stay the same forever.
Whew. Thank you. Thank you all. That was, just a high note to end on. We're going to shift to take questions from the audience. I'm going to put the mic down and run the mic around. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll bring the mic to you. Thank you for your patience. And maybe we should give a round of applause to our amazing panelists. All right. All right.
Hi there, my name is Sheila. I don't have any tattoos. I brought my daughter here. She's wondering, she's scared that I'm even asking a question. But I was just curious about particular cultures, nationalities that maybe have been not as open-minded about tattoos. I know I have some friends who are Jewish, so like in Israel, they don't have as many, but do you also see some of those do you see like in your lifetime, like some significant changes where you're starting to see tattoos entering these places that historically you haven't seen that?
I can answer that. It's interesting. I mean, being Arab American, I was the first person that I thought of in my family who got tattoos. And then I started doing more research and finding this like really, really deep history into like Arab tattooing. And actually in Palestine is the first tattoo shop ever. It's Razouk Tattoo. It's been open, oh God, I'm so bad with numbers, but like
The 15th century.
yeah, since the 15th century. It's the oldest tattoo shop in the world. I got my hand tattooed there. And this, this like Palestinian tattoo history is deep. And I think there are many factors that influence just a lot of that culture being intentionally erased, intentionally forgotten. And it's cool to then talk to my family and be like, do you know that like, I don't know, our people have been tattooing for so long. And then I talked to my Siti and she'd be like, oh yeah, we're like women in the village who had tattoos and we called them Majnuna and like, which means crazy. But yeah, and just like, it's interesting for me to like look into my own culture and encourage everyone to look into their culture. Because Leo said it, it's this like global thread that ties everyone together. Like most cultures have this history of tattooing. And yeah, I think it's cool. Everyone should look into their own history and kind of see where those roots are, whether they're in, I don't know, recent history, digging deeper, like it exists.
But also I think if a particular group of people have like some belief that they don't want to get tattoos and stuff, then that's cool too. Like I'm not trying to talk you into getting this, like why I got into it to begin with is because it wasn't for everybody. So I'm happy some people don't like it, Because like if everyone loves it, it's probably, lame.
Anybody else want to answer that question? Okay. Other questions?
Would you like to talk about the complete flip side of the coin of tattooing, namely those cultures that theologically, some versions of Christianity, ones that I particularly was brought up in, that saw tattooing not just as, those people, weird, lower class, sailors and drunks, not just all those stereotypes, but as a sin, as defacing the body that God gave you. The same response that said, don't get piercings. I grew up in a world where nobody had pierced ears because that was sinful. And can you talk about that whole shtick a little, please?
I think there's also ironically, the group photo was shot at Wesley United Methodist Church in San Jose. We were actually looking for a place to shoot, and we needed a really large space to fit 50 people. I tattooed the Reverend. He's Japanese American. He got some kanji. You know what I mean? And he was and actually on that note, because like studio fees are really expensive. Like, well, how much would it cost to use? And he's like, no, you can totally use it. Like all the interviews that we did in Northern California, we used one of their buildings. That shot was there. And so obviously like they don't have that feeling. I was gonna say that's coupled with like in a lot of Asian thought, I think there's this idea like the body your parents gave you. And I think but my feeling is also just like everywhere in the world tattooing has existed. Nobody invented tattooing. It was all over the world, and there's like enough data to show that. Now whether it exists in certain places, maybe it was a church that wiped it out, maybe it was a colonist, maybe it was whatever, but like it was suppressed in certain places, or maybe just went out of favor. Like even in Japan, like the government went really hard against it. And there's still people that did it. And though ironically, like in Japanese history, like there's like kind of the bad stigma for tattoo. A lot of it's because the government used to put punishment marks on people to brand people that they had convicted of quote unquote crimes. Like some were like on the face, some like here. So there's even like theories that say that the bodysuit started as a way to cover those, which I'm really opposed to that theory, but that's a whole nother topic. So I think I'm not really super versed on religious history or whatnot. But I think like anywhere throughout all these different histories, like people are still doing it, and maybe it's like a little bit of that rebellious spark where they're going against their parents or their priest or whoever, because like I said, I think it's a universal thing. Like I agree with Leo, like, and I think like tattooing is a worldwide phenomenon. It's a human urge to mark your body. And again, also like what John said, like, and if you don't want it, that's cool too. Like there's none of us try to talk people into getting tattoos. Like people come to us, and it's like that's it's the kind of thing where like, so but I do think in case of like that, like religious kind of things, like I think not just in tattooing, but there's so many ways where people sin against their religions. You know what I mean? And want to.
But it's changing. I mean, Korea just is about to legalize it, and they're a very Christian heavy country. Also, I mean, every time we watch an Asian something on Netflix now, someone has a tattoo. I think it's definitely changing, and
I truly respect whatever people want to believe across the board, whatever it is. But I want nothing to do with Christianity, and I can respect it if that's your thing. It's cool. But as an indigenous person, I want nothing to do with it. But I'm not gonna like stand on a soapbox about it. I'll just like let my life be my manifesto.
Something that I noticed across the various panels in the exhibition from the artists was this thread of the art of tattooing being a responsibility and even an obligation in some cases for people who come to you and need it. And I'm just curious to hear your experiences or your thoughts with clients who've come to you needing a tattoo.
I mean, I think needing a tattoo can look so many different ways. At my shop, we do free cover-ups for anyone who's been formerly incarcerated. And at my shop in Chicago, we specifically did, it was a day where we did cover-ups for victims of police brutality and torture through the Chicago Torture Justice Center, which is like incredible initiative. And yeah, I mean, that's one end of the spectrum of people needing tattoos, like especially needing like gang-related things covered up or and trafficking-related tattoos. Like there are so many things that people need covered up, and I encourage people to, I don't know, offer those services for free because it's such a gift to hear people's stories and kind of be trusted with that kind of project. But then on the other hand, there's people who like are like, I need to get tattooed right now, and it's like, I don't know, not one of those cases. And yeah, sometimes you don't even know how much someone needs it until you've been sitting with them for a while, and they kind of tell you more about like why they're there, what brought them in. Yeah, and I think just being open to it all, just being like, I don't know, yeah, really cognizant of what we're doing.
You bring up a good point. I think a lot of times, sometimes the client doesn't realize they needed it until they're halfway through it. So I don't think they necessarily have ever brought it to you like, I need this, because that'd also be awkward. But
Sometimes they do.
well, I haven't had that happen. Whatever. But yeah, but I have had a lot of that, especially tattoo in my community. You get halfway through some big project and they start to feel some, cathartic, whatever that may be. So yeah.
Yeah, healing was a theme, is a thread that's woven throughout the exhibition. And just, Leo, you talked about magic, sort of just that, like, the magical, the magic of healing through tattooing. Taki.
I just wanted to add to that. I think like any tattooer, regardless of the type of tattoo you're doing, there is that responsibility. Like if you're going to tattoo somebody, and I'm not saying we have to tattoo everybody. Like there's obviously situations where you can decline a client for whatever reason, but if you are going to tattoo something, it's your responsibility to do a good job, to do your best at it, And I think that goes across anything. So I think that's like anything that like any professional tattooer, should always do that. Like,
Other questions? Back here.
I'm wondering what advice you might have for someone who comes from a culture where there's been a ton of erasure of like traditional tattoo. For context, my family's from an island in Micronesia, and the amount of um, the amount of history that exists around tattoo comes from like those who are over 100, and you've got a few photos that are of tattoos that are very, very old, or you've got some illustrations from books written by Germans back whenever, so there is history, but like the meaning may be a little skewed, the history around it might be a little skewed, and you just have very little information to go off of. And I'm kind of curious, yeah, like what advice you might have for someone who's wanting to help revitalize that and wanting to help kind of bring it back, but just kind of finding roadblocks in that. Hopefully that makes sense.
I'll say trust your instincts. Because I dealt with that a lot with not only Cherokee stuff, but a lot of people don't realize like there were like whole existence of indigenous people like even predate Cherokee culture, and we use a lot of their symbols, even though we don't know what they were. Finding them on pottery and stuff, we don't necessarily know what they mean. Um, but also, I think it's kind of important. Don't let yourself get lost in a symbol's meaning, because whatever it means to you, and if you're like coming from that place, then like that's what it means. And don't let some German tell you you're wrong. You know, um, yeah. But also, it's like uh, whatever little documentation, like if there's any imagery or whatever, um, keep those things precious and don't be scared to add to it. Because again, the culture isn't this rock. It's water. So like, just it can move, it can flow, it can change, and uh, just try things and stand your ground on it.
Oh, also, I just want to tell you, we have a program on February 12th called The Tattooed Body as an Archive, and we are going to explore the themes of erasure and things like that. So look at the website, come to that program. I'm just going to pass this down. Sorry.
Thank you. Well, so my question for you guys is, how much should a tattoo cost? And I know that there's not one answer, obviously. General question, I'm basically asking because, tattoos cost a lot of money in this day and age, and I want to understand, like, your take on that. How do you feel about that?
I feel like as much as you think it's worth, then you will get what you should get. Yeah, it's like an arbitrary thing, and I think each artist can decide for themselves what they think their work is worth. And yeah, I think it again always comes back to respect. Like you can tell when someone really respects the work, and I mean, there've been times that, yeah, many times that someone comes to me for a tattoo, I can tell that they don't have the money for it, and that's not what's important. But those are like, I don't know, cases that are up to us to decide. And also as tattooers, we've had our work like devalued for so long too. So it's also up to us to kind of like maintain that. Yeah.
Someone's going to set their price, and you either agree or disagree with it, and you're not right or wrong. So just trust your gut. If you're like, I'm getting scammed, then bounce.
Yeah, I think I feel like I see things on social media like, oh, this is what this should cost, or you should never do this or that. And I think it's just kind of like it's such a personal thing. Like every artist has different ways to do things. I think like, you know, when like people are in a really good time to get tattooed right now. Like when we were in high school, it's just like, let's go in this shop and hope that those are actually his photos and hope that he's not high and hope he doesn't find out we're underage, right? Like, like nowadays you sitting there like, well, like that's what he ate for dinner and he has like a French bulldog and you know what I mean? Like you like know everything about your tattooer. So if you're gonna, at that point, like you should kind of have an idea, and we see stuff like I've seen people get mad, like, oh, this guy's too expensive. Like, but so what? Like, people don't have to go to him. Like, or whatever. And I feel like that back to this whole like ethic of like kind of making your own rules and doing your own thing, you know. So I think that's kind of just a personal thing. Like if you think someone's not worth your money, then they're not for you, and or maybe they don't want you as a client. Like it goes both ways, Like I feel like a lot of times, especially with like large scale tattooing, like when during our consultations, I feel like we're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing us. Like I have to kind of go this thing of like, is this person a good candidate for, if this guy's been late to his consultation twice, how is he going to do like 100 hours? Things like that. And so we also do that too. Like we kind of think, is this person an ideal, and maybe that also depends on the type of tattooing, like I saw a thing once, like, cause like, for example, I take a drawing fee for a back piece and I saw a thing once where like anyone taking a drawing fee is a scam artist. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I'm not doing stuff this big, It's like if I spend 20 hours drawing your back and I get one session and never see you again, you know, and it's also a measure of seeing how committed someone is, and will they be able to do this, like, you know, especially at the age I'm at. I tell people, if you're not willing to come in once a month, like, we're literally not going to finish this. Like, I'll be retired before I can. So, you know what I mean? Like, but like, I'm trying to stack the deck in my favor, you know, like, in that sense of, like, you know, like, when like, that photo out there is a pretty big group of my clients, but, you know, this is not like, I'm not trying to be negative, but back pieces for me, it's probably like a 20% completion rate. You know, like, a good 80% drop out for whatever reason. And that's just part of, like, being a Japanese tattooer, that you have to accept, any tattooer. But at least if it's like a 1 point, you know what I mean? You get that instant gratification and you can be done with it. So I kind of have to go through that constant, like, not fully getting attached to any piece. And kind of like, you know, it's funny because I'll be like, oh my God, I've been wanting to do this. And then, like, I'll get like one outline in and never see them again, you know? So, but yeah, I think, like, that's the thing. Like, if it's the right tattooer for you, the money will work itself out.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that also too, all of us that have been in the business for a long time, most of us, all of us up here, we all have a sliding scale. It's not like we're going to rake you over the coals because, you know, we're famous tattooers. You know, it's not like that in our group.
Well, you're a famous tattooer, Leo. And actually, back to the Micronesian descent person. I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to put Pati or Alec on the spot, but, like, they're both doing, like, Pati does, like, contemporary Samoan stuff. Alec is doing contemporary Filipino stuff. And I think, like, it's interesting because, like, Alec is doing stuff like incorporating old patterns that you see from the old photos, but, you know, he's making it now. And I think that's the good point what John Henry is saying. Like, we're here in the now, and whatever, like, he's doing is correct. Whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, it's not for the Germans or me to decide what Micronesian tattooing should look like now. You know?
And don't get discouraged the fact that you will have people disagree with you. You know, you will. I promise. And don't get discouraged. And they're allowed to disagree, so don't get mad at them. You know? Yeah. Well, like I said, stand your ground.
I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank each and every one of the panelists, Seem, John Henry, Taki, Molly, Leo. It's just been an honor. This was such a fun conversation. We could spend 2 more hours talking, I'm sure, taking more questions from the audience, but the library does close at 6, and there's still time to see the exhibition. It's really spectacular. It's free, open every day that the library is open. We provide 0 barrier access to the arts in all different modes. So please tell your friends to come and see it, come back. We have an incredible lineup of programs. And yeah, you see something new and learn something new every time, or at least I do, every time I look at the images, the objects in the exhibition, and listen to the interviews. So it's a rich, really dynamic show. And thank you all for contributing your time and your talents and your wisdom to the show and to today's program. Thank you so much. This has really been an honor.